Hey guys, how's it going? And happy Tuesday. I hope y'all are doing good. And I want to wish you and all of your family a very Merry Christmas. Tomorrow's Christmas Eve, so I hope you're all doing well and God bless all of you. And remember that Jesus is the reason for the season. Now, I was talking to you last Friday, just a few days ago, about the Michigan red flag repeal hearing in the Judiciary Committee. Now, I focused in that stream on all of you who contacted your reps. We talked about all kinds of stuff as we do. And I wanted to do a replay, if you will, and a commentary so we could all kind of watch together. And shout out to all of you in the chat. You guys could chat about it. So we're going to play the replay. I have the video here queued up of the Michigan House Judiciary Committee hearing. This was last Wednesday, and this is concerning red flag repeal. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. It's good to have you here. We've talked about this in many other videos, many other live streams, all the reasons why we do need to get this repealed in the House of Representatives. This would be a major step forward. This would get the momentum back on our side a little bit. And we do need to have things to be optimistic about, as much as there's stuff we need to complain about, because there's a lot wrong with the Second Amendment and a lot wrong with the state of Michigan and a lot wrong with this world, but we need to try to move in a positive direction and stay focused, and we need to save the Second Amendment, to put it bluntly. So good to see all of you. I'm going to play this in 1 second here. But before I do, I want to thank all of you for the many ways you help support the channel. Thank you to my channel members. I see Rescue Nut hanging out right here. I see N8IWS. So thank you to all of you. If anyone leaves a super chat tonight, I will read it. And you guys are my sponsors. There's no ad reads here. What's happening, Paul Bennett, channel member? Nice to see you as well. I also want to thank all of my supporters on Patreon as well as Locals, which is a different site, censorship-free. So make sure you're following me over there. I post all kinds of awesome deals on stuff, as well as over on X. And check the description for a bunch of different links, ways you guys can help support the channel for free. So, yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody. And it's good to be here with all of you. And shout out to anyone who's watching on the replay crew as well. Good to have you guys. And let's cue this up and kind of get started here. This hearing is maybe like a little bit over an hour or so. I'm going to stop it from time to time to do some commentary, and I want all of you guys to talk about this as well. What's happening, Ron Wayne Official? Nice to see you, man, and Merry Christmas to you and yours as well. All right. So this is the Michigan House Judiciary Committee. Since the Michigan House of Representatives does have a Republican majority, we're going to see the Republicans are going to have the majority on this panel, on this committee, and the chair is Sarah Leitner. We've been pressuring her. We've been asking her. We've been demanding of her all of these different things, quite frankly, to hold this hearing for about a year now. So she did. This is a hearing, keep in mind. They did not hold a vote on it. We need them to schedule another committee to hold a vote to pass this favorably out of the committee onto the House floor. And in my previous video that I did just a few days back, I go all about how you can contact all these members of the Judiciary Committee. And they're off on like a 3-week break right now. Christmas, New Year, all of these things. What's happening, Misty Wayne? Nice to see you. What's up, Drain the Swamp? So I'll come back and kind of touch base with you guys again, but this is a good start. The fight is not over, however. So let's take a look here and see what we think. Now, I want you to focus right near the beginning, just the tone that the chair has. You're going to see this look on her face, and I want to see if all of you kind of notice this too. Now, normally I've been to these hearings before, these committee hearings, and a lot of times it's kind of like, there's like 3 people sitting in the audience, and they're just like, next, whatever. A lot of times it's lively debate. You see all sorts of things. I want to see if you guys notice the same thing I'm going to notice here, and that is like, wow, there's a lot of people who testified, a lot of people who sent their comments. We have a lot to do. Let's take this seriously. See if you get that vibe as well.
Rep. Wozniak moves to excuse absent members. Hearing no objection, absent members are excused. Okay.
Let me know if you guys can hear this.
We have a loaded agenda today. So I'm just going to give a couple of housekeeping instructions. For those wishing to make public comment today, please fill out a card. We already have numerous cards up here. We did get
check this out.
Email cards of support and opposition as well, which I can address at the end. There are numerous. The clerk has already entered them in.
Look at all
So
these cards.
I'm not going to read every single one of them because there's this many. So it'll take up all your time and then some. But if anybody else that is here would like to make public comment, please fill out a card and turn it into the clerk. So if we have time, we can get to you. If any members of the public do come up to speak, please remember that public comment is an opportunity to address us, the legislators. Therefore, please address the chair. In addition, public comment is not a question and answer session. It's simply a chance for people to speak to this legislative body. Legislators are not required to answer any questions that may be posed by the speaker during this public comment. Finally, there's a large number of you that wish to speak on these bills today. We do have limited time as there's another committee hearing at noon in this room. So we're going to try to wrap up by 11:45, 11:50 today. If we're unable to provide everyone with the opportunity to speak here in person, please remember that public comments can be submitted in writing and submitted to the committee clerk, and they will be included in the record.
And I went over that during the last live stream. I showed where a lot of you submitted your comments, your testimony as part of the record, which was encouraging. So thank you to all of you who did that.
All right. With that, we are going to move on to a couple of quick votes.
All right. These are just kind of like votes that has nothing to do with the 2A. It's not even interesting. So I'm just going to kind of move just a couple minutes ahead here.
Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Chair Leitner.
Yes.
Representatives Begol.
Yes.
Wozniak.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
DeBoyer.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schutte.
Yes.
Carter.
No.
Hope.
No.
Green.
No.
Scott.
No.
Madam Chair, you have 7 yeas, 4 nays, 0 passed. The motion prevails.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right. Next up, we are going to hear testimony from Representative DeSena.
Okay, real quick. I just fast forwarded to save you guys a minute. That was not a vote on red flag repeal. We're getting into the subject matter of red flag repeal and Representative Jim DeSena right now. And if you guys haven't seen it yet, I did a video with Jim DeSena like the day that he put out this bill. So make sure you go back to my channel and watch that as well. If you're kind of new here or new to all of this, it'll help you catch up and see how we got here.
In regards to House Bill 4138, 4139, and 4140, Rep. DeSena, if you would like to come up, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Chair Leitner and members of the committee for holding testimony on these bills, House Bills 4138, 4139, and 4140. I'm here today with groups representing the gun owners from all over the state of Michigan. We are here today speaking about red flag legislation and presenting our case, something we were not able to do when this law was passed in the spring of 2023. America is built on the foundation of freedom and inalienable God-given rights. The right to self-defense exists in natural law. The founders of our country and our state knew that this right had to be paramount. I have taken an oath to defend this right in both the U.S. Constitution and the Michigan Constitution. Another constitutionally protected right is the right to due process. And I cannot think of any more important right than the right to your day in court and the right to face your accuser and the right to tell your story, which has been denied our gun owners in the state of Michigan. I won't go into every detail, and I want to be brief as I can so I can leave time for people to speak, because I know there's a lot of people want to speak to this issue. Ensconced in the 14th Amendment, Section 1 says, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Article 1, Section 17 of the Michigan Constitution essentially states the same.
Yep.
With gun ownership comes great responsibility. We as gun owners understand this and know this. We believe that much of our problems in society today are due to mental illness. We had a 72-hour commitment law and have a 72-hour commitment law on the books. And I'm here to say that there's a better way to handle this than taking guns away from law-abiding citizens. MCL 330, the Mental Health Code, our 72-hour commitment exists within that code. And it describes mental illness as such. Mental illness means a substantial disorder of thought or mood that significantly impairs judgment, behavior, capacity to recognize reality, or ability to cope with the ordinary demands of life. An individual who has mental illness and who, as a result of that mental illness, can reasonably be expected within the near future to intentionally or unintentionally seriously physically injure himself, herself, or another individual, or who has engaged in an act or acts and made significant threats that are substantially supportive of the expectation. We already have laws, felonies that cover when somebody makes a threat outside the mental health code.
That's right.
MCL 750.540, threats through communication. MCL 750.543, terroristic threats, serious felony. MCL 750.235B, school threats, a 10-year felony. I'd like to relate this story to you. We've had a lot of news lately, the news cycle, seeing acts of violence with things other than guns, lots of violence with knives. But I'd like to relate to you this story that happened in Dearborn in August of this year. On Thursday, August 21st of this year, Haider Al-Fadawi of Dearborn, Michigan, was badly beaten. He filed a police report on Friday, the 22nd, identifying the suspect.
Dearborn is staying.
On the morning of Saturday, the 23rd, he returned to the police, to the Dearborn Police Department, asking the police if they could help find this person who was trying to kill him. The officer on duty said he would have to come back and talk to the detective on Monday. Haider asked, "What if he tries to kill me today or tomorrow?" He said, "Well, you'll just have to come back on Monday and talk to the detective." On the evening, Saturday night, as Haider was crossing Michigan Avenue, and the video, you can see it, you can Google it, it's out there, it's brutal. He was run down by Murtada Jabbar al-Jaziri. He crossed over into the oncoming lanes and hit Haider with his car. Haider just came out of a concussion just recently. He was in a concussion for 2 months, broke multiple broken bones. So my point is, when somebody really wants to kill somebody, they can use multiple instruments. You can't, we take guns away from people thinking when somebody's made a threat, they can use knives, cars. I could go on and on.
I talked
as
about
to
that in
what
my
somebody would do
testimony
when
too.
they really want to kill somebody. Why are we targeting the law-abiding gun owners of Michigan by?
No, he's nailing it right here. That's why I included much of this in my testimony. They take the guns, but they don't remove the person from the dangerous situation. If there's even a dangerous situation at all, you'll see as this keeps going, many of these are false flags.
Taking their guns away just simply because of a threat. And I'm going to let my my experts in the field talk more about how the law has worked. Many of you know of some examples in our state, 2 youths in Northville, a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old in Northville whose family had all their guns taken away because something was said at school that just didn't make sense, whether it was violent or just somebody thought that person had access to guns.
We reported on that here.
And
too.
the other thing I think that's happened too with safe storage, we're now using safe storage as a way to catch somebody and trip them up on red flag. So in all these instances with the youths, that their house was visited to find a gun, to see if a gun was out in the open. I don't believe that having a loaded gun in your house is against the law. I don't believe that. I believe that our right to bear arms includes having a gun in your house, and the government does not have the right to tell you how your gun is stored. That's your right as a gun owner and as an American citizen.
For anyone just joining, welcome. This is Representative Jim DeSena. He's a good friend of mine. We talk on the phone a lot of times, once or twice a week. He's the author of the red flag repeal bill package. So again, I'm just as disenchanted with politicians generally as many of you are. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, but I'm going to call a spade a spade. This is a good one. This representative, Jim DeSena, he's a fighter for the Second Amendment. So this is a guy we need to be getting behind. So I just wanted to just bring you guys up to speed for anyone who just jumped in.
In the Upper Peninsula, in Alger County, a student made some threats at school, and the family got a visit. The family lost all their guns. We know from reading these stories that in the vast majority of these cases, the families get their guns back because they find out that there's no threat. The child is no threat. The family is no threat. I would be here today to tell you that law-abiding citizens are not a threat, and the fact that they're armed, they are not a threat to society. Right. We need to focus on the criminals. My dad was a mayor of Wyandotte for 30 years. All the police officers in town could tell you they go to the same houses. They call them their clients. They're the same people making the same violent threats. They're in the same trouble over and over and over. It is just very rare to have a law-abiding citizen out of the blue commit violence in our society. We know where our criminals are. We need to enforce our existing laws. We do not need this type of legislation, and I am here today to say we should repeal it. Thank you very much.
Okay, Representative Jim DeSena, the author of the bills. Now he's going to get his cross-examination, if you will. And some of this is going to be good, but I'm warning you, some of this, you're going to lose brain cells even listening to it. But let's continue.
Rep. DeBoyer.
DeBoyer's good on the Second Amendment. I do like Jay DeBoyer.
Thank you, Representative DeSena, for bringing this forward. And I would say I think it bears repeating one of the items that you touched on early, which was that the issue that we are facing as a society is a mental health crisis. In what we're seeing with these current laws that are in place is that we're treating a symptom, and we believe by trying to eradicate the symptom, which is the use of a gun in a violent act, by taking the gun from the individual, somehow we've solved the individual's problem. We haven't. We've actually exacerbated it, because instead of that individual getting treatment, proper diagnosis, care, they're just turned right back into society, and we feel better about ourselves because we've taken their gun away.
Yeah, good points here. I agree with him.
It makes no sense. It is the same failed policies that have been implemented time and time again that don't solve the problem. So I really wanted to just say to you, I appreciate you pointing that significant issue out. And if we're going to move forward and we're going to solve the violence issue, it's going to be through addressing mental health. And by the way, also addressing things like family, parenting, and responsibility. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rep.
That's right. Family, parenting, responsibility. The government's not supposed to be raising our children. Those were good words of encouragement from Representative DeBoyer. Keep in mind, guys, this is how this works. The majority of the people on this committee need to then, schedule a vote, obviously, hopefully soon, right after the new year, need to vote to pass this out of committee. Then it can go to the House. So let me know what you all think in the comments or in the live chat. It sounds like DeBoyer's with us on this. So we've got one so far.
DeBoyer, and as it relates to mental illness, if I could just say, the 72-hour hold could be strengthened. I believe it could be strengthened. There's some mental treatment issues that can maybe cause some people to fall through. I really do believe that when a family has a member in a mental health crisis, they really are reaching out to our courts, to our system to say, you've got to hold them. They're going to either kill themselves or kill somebody else. Yeah. And I believe the 72-hour hold is part of the system that can work if we cooperate with it and our judicial system cooperates with it. And that person will have their day in court. They'll have an attorney and they'll have due process.
That's what's important, what he said right there. And this is a tough topic because we have so much government overreach. We don't trust the government. But there are people out there. We have to face this fact. There are people out there who are crazy and evil. Okay, I'm not saying everyone who gets nervous once in a while or has PTSD. I'm not saying all those people are crazy and evil. However, there are people out there who truly are evil, who are 100% off the rocker, and they're not safe to be among us. And some people, in my opinion, do need to be removed from society. The person needs to be removed. Maybe temporarily in some cases, in other cases, probably permanently. However, as he just said, though, during these types of provisions, there is due process. You do get your day in court. You do get a lawyer. Red flag laws, there is no due process. They don't remove the potentially dangerous, crazy, violent person from the situation. They just remove the gun and leave the person there to do whatever the heck they're going to do. And I think that's an important distinction, don't you guys?
There's a better way to do this. Due process is the way to do it.
Thank you. Minority Vice Chair Carter.
Here's the Democrat.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So when I look at this, being a retired officer for 25 years, when I started domestic violence, you tell somebody to leave the house. Well, after a few lawsuits, somebody has to go to jail for 24 hours. So there's things that have been done to be preventative. You get your due process. But earlier this year, state police and the Sheriff's Association, they presented information before this committee that the ERPA laws had been an effective tool in reducing gun violence.
Okay, keep in mind, guys, the police and sheriff's associations both, and I believe Tyrone Carter is a former cop. Just remember this, guys. Look, shout out to the good cops out there. I have a few who are friends, but look, here's the deal. Generally speaking, the police are not with us on this. The Michigan Police Association and Sheriff's Association, these are two powerful groups that represent the whole umbrella of our law enforcement in this state. When these laws were passed 2 years ago, they support red flag laws. Okay? They are against repealing them. So, hey, have a lively discussion over it, guys, but it is what it is. That's the truth. I know tons of my Republican friends are back the thin blue line, no matter what. Well, guess what? Not when it conflicts with the Second Amendment. That's my opinion. I don't back anybody who conflicts with the Second Amendment, but he's not lying when he says this. The police and sheriffs collectively support red flag laws.
What are your thoughts about this? And have you spoken to the Sheriff's Association or the state police about your...
I've spoken to my sheriff, my county sheriff in my district.
Who's your county sheriff?
Troy Goodenough.
Okay.
And he happens to be in favor of red flag legislation.
Okay, and here's the thing. Troy Goodenough, he happens to be in favor of red flag legislation. Well, guess what? My state representative's Jamie Thompson. However, Jim DeSena is just like one district over. We both live in Monroe County. I live in the same county as Representative DeSena, meaning I have the same sheriff. Ran as a Republican. He'll say he's pro Second Amendment all day long, but he does support red flag laws. So listen to what the representative just said. If you live in Monroe County, your Republican sheriff ran as being pro Second Amendment. According to the representative here, after talking to him, the sheriff does support red flag laws.
To be honest, I think that, and one of the worst instances of violence in my district was a police officer killed answering a domestic violence call. And I feel for the police in dealing with society today, and certainly echo the sentiments of the you being a police officer and having to deal with domestic violence situations, and know when you come into those are some of the most dangerous environments and incidences. And I believe that a lot of our cases where we have gun violence are domestic violence instances, and it's a mental health crisis.
I agree. It's mental health. Just real quick, guys. Ace Diamond's asking something a ton of people ask. I've covered this 1,000,001 times, but I will again real quick. If red flag repeal passes the House, will it hit the Senate before the midterms? If it does hit the Senate before midterm, we'll die in the Senate, right? Well, I don't look at this as midterms. The Michigan House of Representatives runs every 2 years. So it's just going to be their regular election. However, the Michigan Senate's up for election here in a year, a little less than a year from now. So is the governorship. So all bills that pass certain committees in one session do die but when they go to the next session. We're not going to get red flag repeal laws repealed this session, no matter what. The governor will not sign it. However, as I've said so many times, we need positive momentum to move forward. The left had a long game. The Democrats had a long game. They were in the minority for 30, almost 40 years in the Michigan House and Senate. They kept doing all of these things to where when they finally had their day in the sun, bam, they crammed it all down our throat. So, yes, I know some people don't have the patience for it. Some people don't have the fortitude for it. I get it. Many people believe Michigan's a lost cause. I understand that too. But this is part of the process if you want these laws repealed, and it will be a major statement. And I'm hoping it will encourage people that might be staying home to come in and vote for a pro-Second Amendment Republican. Now, don't just vote Republican because they have an R. You're going to come in and vote for a pro-Second Amendment candidate because maybe you've seen the House repeal it, and you know that if you can get you and enough of your friends invigorated, maybe we can flip the governorship to a pro-Second Amendment governor, pro-Second Amendment Senate majority. If the House can retain, then we can literally get these repealed in real life, starting a little bit over a year from now. That's the plan. Look, this stuff didn't happen. All this bad stuff didn't happen overnight. It cannot be fixed overnight through this process, but I'm trying to be optimistic, guys, and trust me, I'm not naive. Those of you that know this channel, I call all the crap out more than anybody does. So I get it, but that's what it is right now, and we do need to take part in this process. And look, so far you guys have been doing an excellent job. For those of you just joining, you should have seen the look on her face like, we have a lot to do today. Look at these. She holds up this big stack, inches thick of testimony, a stack of cards. The clerk's like, but wait, there's more. And she's got piles of cards. We have their attention in Lansing. Okay. I have the personal cell phone numbers of half of the representatives you're going to see on here. I'm talking to people. I'm talking to my representative constantly. Right now, we do have their attention. So I'm trying to stay positive with this, but no, this isn't just like the easy button, and it doesn't just repeal red flags right now, but we do need to get this committee to schedule a vote. So there you go. What's happening, Midwest Logger? You know exactly what I'm talking about, and yes, yeah. All right, let's get back to this hearing here. And this is Representative Jim DeSanta. He's the author of the bills. He's a real deal Second Amendment supporter. He's a friend of the channel. He's my friend. And if you guys haven't seen it yet, go back and watch. I did an interview with him when he first put these bills forward months ago.
It's a lot of times it is a argument in the House and somebody calls the police and somebody the police officer is suddenly turned as the enemy.
Thank you, Representative Breen.
Okay,
Thank you, Madam
this is
Chair.
Kelly
And-
Breen. She was the one that was the chair when the Democrats had majority 2 years ago, when they rammed this down our throats, didn't let any of the pro-Second Amendment people testify. Dr. John Lott was there. Does this bring him back memories? I was covering all of this when it was happening. She was really rude to him. He was like a huge witness to come in and testify. Flew him from all the way across the country. She was rude. In my opinion, she was mean. They literally treated him terribly, in my opinion. Now she's in the minority, and this is the former chair of this very committee, Kelly Breen. She crammed this through 2 years ago. So keep in mind who you're actually listening to right now, and this is a real beauty here.
And welcome, Rep. DeSana. You were talking initially about some fundamental rights, and I would note that, God did not write the Second Amendment. Man did.
Ooh.
And you've discussed due process. We have substantive.
God didn't write the Second Amendment. Man did. This is a common argument from leftists, many who are also Democrats. She doesn't believe in natural God-given rights. She wants to live in America when it's good for her, but she doesn't believe in the Declaration of Independence when Thomas Jefferson said all men are created equal, and they're endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's not an exhaustive list. Among these, she also doesn't agree when the founding fathers wrote in the Declaration of Independence, these are the laws of nature and of nature's God. So this is somebody who doesn't believe God had any influence on the founders. She doesn't believe our rights come from God. And this is what I talk about when I talk about the other side. This is the epitome of all of this. Sorry to keep interrupting, but I ain't going to let her slide on that crap. We can't let these people slide on this crap. God didn't write the Second Amendment, man did. Well, who created the men that wrote the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights? Who literally wrote that our rights come from God and acknowledged that our rights are natural, pre-existing rights? The Founding Fathers, who virtually all of them were Christians. And they want to take God out of this country, and they want to take God out of Christmas, and I'm sick and tired of all this crap.
And procedural due process, and that is built into the laws to include an appeal process and a swift hearing if somebody wishes to contest this.
No. Take the guns first, then a hearing. Take the guns first, then due process. That's no due process at all. Here, I'll rewind because I interrupted her twice. Sorry, guys, but this is a disaster.
Anna, you were talking initially about some fundamental rights, and I would note that, God did not write the Second Amendment. Man did. And you've discussed due process. We have substantive and procedural due process, and that is built into the laws to include an appeal process and a swift hearing if somebody wishes to contest this. I have reviewed multiple cases that have been filed under these laws, and I note that what we are seeing here in Michigan is exactly what we are seeing in other states, and that a vast majority of people who have their firearms confiscated do not attempt to get them back, as most of them are suicidal, and they no longer have that temptation. So, given that, I vehemently contest your assertion that due process is not being followed. So, I am wondering, though, have you?
She's literally never read the Bill of Rights. You can't be deprived of your life, your liberty, or property without due process of law. Due process has to happen first. As soon as they take property and then say there's due process afterwards, to believe something like that requires the listener to be dumber than the speaker. And in my opinion, the speaker has an IQ of probably about 70, and she thinks all of us listening are even dumber than that. Don't forget about that for a minute. She thinks you're even dumber than that.
Spoken with any judges that have seen a violation of due process, because it's to my understanding that after we've received the support from the judges, and also we received support from the sheriffs, the chiefs of police, the fraternal order.
See, they're all against us. The police support this, the judges support this, the sheriffs support this. She is right on that. She was right on that. What can I say? She's not right on much, but she was right on that.
Police, and I know we all love to back the blue.
No, we don't.
What judges have pointed
Speak for
to
yourself, woman.
any information that there are violations of due process? Because again, we are following all the laws in the state, including the decision under Rahimi, in which they found, the Supreme Court found that somebody who is a credible threat to the safety of another may be temporarily disarmed, because again, ERPOs are temporary measures.
No, that's no. She's being disingenuous. This was not to do with red flag laws. There are no nationwide red flag laws that were in front of the Supreme Court.
I would just argue respectfully that whenever somebody doesn't have their attorney present and doesn't have a day in court and loses their firearms.
I have to absolutely oppose what you're saying there. They do have their day in court. There is an appeals process.
Look at her. She's rude. She lacks composure. She's argumentative. No, you can't have your property taken without due process of law, woman. Man.
After they've lost their firearms.
Temporarily. They have a hearing within 2 weeks. Has anybody lost their firearms for more than 2 weeks?
And
yeah, they actually have.
You know also that in reference to people who seek their guns back, I believe it's nationwide, the statistics are over 86% of the guns are returned.
After they have been confiscated for a temporary period of time, which is, a fair amount when somebody is in a mental crisis.
No. He just said like 87% of the time they give them right back, meaning they weren't truly in a mental crisis.
86% of the time, this is a tremendous waste of our police resources to go and collect these guns from people rather than focusing on the violent individuals.
But yet none of the law enforcement organizations are agreeing with you.
Well, I'm not looking for people to agree with me. I think that I know where I stand, and I believe that our God-given rights were written in the Constitution. It's based in natural law. The right to self-defense, the right to bear arms is written in natural law.
Yes, yes. And the founding fathers acknowledged that pre-existing right. A couple quick chats here. Midwest Longer. I didn't find my testimony in the list. Did anyone else have this happen? I don't know how much of my last live stream you watched, man, but I showed, like, when you go look at the testimony, there's one of them that has like 133 pages all listed under one. If you need help with that later, send me a text or something and I'll try to help you figure that out. But I did cover that in the last stream. If you're aware of that and you still couldn't find it, I'm just curious. Just let me know. Yeah, this one here, she's getting me. Yeah. Rescue Nut with a $5 super chat and a channel member says beverage refill. Well, thanks, Rescue Nut. I appreciate you, man. Oh, this is a rodeo show listening to this, whatever you want to call it. Her, it, Zer. And you know, I keep saying this, in my opinion, these are not good looking people. Just take a quick peek and you might see what I'm talking about here.
And in addition to none of the law enforcement organizations that are supporting this repeal, have you spoken with any judges?
Yes, I have. I've spoken with my Monroe County judges.
Okay, and do they support repeal?
Judge Michael Brown is a very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And he believes that the 72-hour hold, there are some.
I'm not asking.
Did you hear her when she went, and this is what a scorned woman looks like. This is the problem with these women. Repeal the 19th. I'm telling you guys, repeal the 19th and these problems are gone tomorrow.
About the 72-hour hold. I'm asking about repeal, which is what your bills are aimed to do.
Correct. The reason that I'm here to say that the right to due process being taken away from somebody,
which is built into these laws.
Madam Representative, will you please let Jim DeSanna,
Oh, look at her. See you next Tuesday, Breen.
Representative DeSanna finish his answer before you interrupt him again and again and again, please?
I would like the answer to the question if the judges support repeal.
I'm not going to answer that question.
Yeah.
The 72-hour hold gives a person due process and accomplishes exactly the purpose involved, which is stopping the violent individual from injuring himself or another person. You can hold the person for 72 hours. They see a judge. They have and if it's a false accusation or just maybe an exaggeration, they're able to make their case to the judge and say, listen, somebody is making a allegation against me. It's not true. I'm peaceful. I'm not going to do anything. This process that we have right now, automatically you are assumed guilty until after your guns are seized, you're assumed guilty. With a 72-hour hold, you immediately have the right to an attorney.
There's no presumption of guilt with these, sir.
Well,
it is a temporary hold.
Okay. Representative Schuette.
Oh,
thank you, Madam Chair. I want to continue on this topic.
See, for anyone that's like 2A EDU, you're a bigot, you're a misogynist. No. I love women. Does anyone else with me that these women up here just repeal the 19th? I'm being serious. There's some good ones, but at the end of the day, I mean, it speaks for itself, doesn't it? Tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. You guys can tell me I'm wrong, but I mean, it is what it is, man. Every time, it is what it is.
Topic of due process and how our legal system is working with the extreme risk protection order. So, am I correct that a extreme risk protection order can be granted without any notice to the respondent?
correct.
Okay, and that order can be granted without notice, and then the restrained person has the burden to have it lifted.
Correct.
Okay.
The burden of proof is
The
upon.
burden of proof. So that takes our traditional function of our judicial process and flips it to put the burden on the respondent.
So this is Rep. Bill G. Schuette. He's the son of former Michigan Attorney General Bill Schuette. He's a Republican. His line of questioning seems good here, but I'm going to give you some inside scoop. I called his office, talked to one of his staff members, and her back and forth with me was not 100% settling. I'll just leave it at that. Maybe Bill Schuette's office is a good one for you guys to be writing and calling, encouraging him to help get this passed out of committee. I'm not questioning him and his Second Amendment support, but there were a few things said in my conversation with his office staffer that didn't sit quite right with me, if you know what I mean. But I have not talked to him personally, but I'm just going to kind of throw that out there. This might be a good committee member to send your encouragement and support of him repealing, of him voting, encouraging a vote to repeal and a hearing as soon as they get back from break.
And I believe also that it can be pulled from anywhere in the state of Michigan.
Yeah. Thank you.
Rep Scott.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your testimony, Representative. Are you concerned that pushing these bills would be a proverbial slap in the face to all the families who've lost loved ones, and particularly the Oxford shooting and the University of Michigan?
My
Michigan
heart
State
goes
shooting?
out to anybody who is killed in any type of violence. Why are we singling out people killed with guns? My heart goes out to this gentleman almost killed by a car.
Right.
Or a knife. We've had a knifing.
Ooh, it looks like she agrees. Did you see her nodding her head? She'll still vote against us, but still.
Just in our news in the past week. We don't take knives away. We don't take cars away. I mean, if we did take somebody's car away, I think they'd have the right to go to court before they had their car taken away.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Hope.
Thank you. You mentioned
This is a
God-given
real
rights
beauty.
and the Bill of Rights, and I just wonder if you're aware that other constitutional rights have limitations, and do you believe that the Second Amendment is absolute?
Here you guys go. Let's look at this one again. See, some of you guys might think I make this up. You can't even make this up. So here's a real beauty. The lovely Representative Hope.
Taken away.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Hope.
Thank you. You mentioned God-given rights and the Bill of Rights, and I just wonder if you're aware that other constitutional rights have limitations, and do you believe that the Second Amendment is absolute?
I do. I believe that the right to self-defense, to defend your life against a threat, is absolute. I believe that's in the Catechism. It's in natural law. I believe it was in the Magna Carta. I think that our right to defend ourselves is absolute. And I believe our founding fathers ensconced that right because they had just had a tyrannical government try to take their lives.
Yes, sir. Sit down, you silly woman, and be quiet.
All right. Representative, you can continue to sit there or at one of the other microphones. I'm going to have
To the right.
okay. First up, I'm going to have Nick Bougie wishing to speak, supporting the bills from the NRA.
See what I mean,
Please
Vince?
approach the
Look,
podium.
You can't make this
Keep your
up.
comments to under 3 minutes, please.
You can't make it up.
And you have the floor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair,
What's up,
members of the
Fluffy?
committee, for allowing me to testify today. I will try to keep this brief. As Rep. DeBoyer and Rep. DeSantis said, there could be multiple ways to look at finding a solution to this issue, but the answer to the question should never be to strip citizens of their rights and making them less free.
This is the NRA here.
The NRA does not and will not support any policy proposal that implements sweeping gun bans that arbitrarily strip law-abiding citizens of their Second Amendment rights without due process. Due process is a cornerstone of our democracy, so much so that it's mentioned in multiple amendments. The Fifth Amendment spells out various protections against arbitrary action by the federal government, including that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Likewise, the 14th Amendment, enacted after the Civil War to protect Americans from abusive state practices, declares, nor shall the state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. These so-called red flag laws that this package would repeal are a flagrant attack on the due process. They grant the government the authority to eliminate a person's Second Amendment rights and seize their firearms ex parte. This means that these confiscation orders are issued without a hearing or an opportunity for the target of the order to be heard and present evidence. The target of such an order need not be accused of having committed any crime. Moreover, the current law permits the government to seize firearms based on weak standards of evidence and accusations. Often, the first time someone might be aware an order was enacted is when a police officer shows up and confiscates the individual's firearms. Everyone should have the right to plead their case in court before being stripped of a constitutional right. Furthermore, the categories of individuals that are able to file for these petitions is also incredibly broad. For example, an individual who has or has had a dating relationship with a respondent, or an individual who resides or has resided in the same household with a respondent. These are very broad and ill-defined categories that lead to abuse in the law. Any questions?
Well, hold on.
Rep Harris.
Now, Mike Harris has been on my channel a couple times in the past. We had him come sit right next to me here in my shop, and we've had him in another video or two, and let's see what Mike has to say. I have high hopes that he's going to support the repeal as well. He's been excellent on the Second Amendment so far, so let's see here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I appreciate you, Rep. DeSena, and I appreciate the NRA being involved. And I know many people in this room were here during the original hearings, and I just want to point back to something. Prosecutor Karen McDonald actually made a statement during the initial hearing on this, and it had to do with the burden of proof should be placed upon the petitioner, not upon the respondent. I think that's pretty powerful coming from a prosecutor that has some of the feelings that Karen McDonald does.
Yeah.
I happen to agree with her. You know, I think the burden of proof should be on the petitioner,
Obviously.
not on the person that has to go defend themselves. And actually, and Rep. DeSena, and I meant to say it earlier, I had this exact conversation. I appreciate that the original bill sponsor was open to having the conversation, but I had this conversation about the alternatives and the issue with due process with the ERPO bills versus going the alternative route. Unfortunately, I think it fell on deaf ears because we saw where the legislation went. But I think due process is a huge, huge piece of this, and I think we need to get back to some common sense on this.
We're innocent till proven guilty. That's what we all grew up believing, right?
And Mike Harris is a longtime policeman for Waterford, so keep that in mind.
Rep Breen.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh,
and thank you for
gee.
bringing up some of these constitutional rights. And I guess my question is, it's short and simple. You think it's more appropriate to deprive somebody of their freedoms with an involuntarily hold, jeopardizing their job, their reputation, than it is to temporarily relieve them of their firearms for maybe at most 2 weeks when they have a hearing?
I mean, I believe that everybody should have their day in court, and they should be able to, you know, the petitioner should be able to present evidence, the accused should be able to present evidence, and the judge should be able to make that decision.
That's what the Constitution says.
Whatever that decision is, it should happen in front of a court fairly.
And you understand, though, that is what exactly happens with the current ERPO process?
No, it doesn't happen. Just look at this face. Maybe your mother loves her. Maybe.
No, not if, you know, if it's an ex parte order, a judge can order your firearms rights restricted without you ever being present, without you ever being aware that something was filed, without you being able to plead your case. So I think the issue is yes, can you have a hearing afterwards, after you've been stripped of your rights? Yes, but that isn't innocent being, that isn't, you know, the assumption isn't you're innocent until proven guilty. The assumption is you're guilty and now you have to prove you're innocent.
No, he's right. That is what this is.
Well, one final question then. Somebody calls a Social Security agency and says that they are going to shoot up their asses after he finishes drinking his beer. And you'll be seeing my name on the news.
What's she talking about?
Today, I need my money. I'm coming to the Social Security office and they're going to find out. Do you think it's more
And they're going to find out. We've already talked about the 13% that commit 52% of the violent crime.
appropriate then to put that person on a 72-hour hold and let them immediately have access to their firearms after?
I mean, I believe I'd call law enforcement and have them sort it out. Maybe they do need mental health services, but going to court and going through this process is going to take longer than calling the police and having them, figure out the situation.
Could I speak to that for a second?
Yeah.
I did mention in my, and I'd just like to reiterate, that person would be guilty of a felony under the regular law,
Yeah.
750.543, terroristic threats. You don't need a 72-hour hold. You go and arrest that person for making threats. It's in the law. Let's just enforce the law.
That's
we
right.
have.
Thank you.
That's the thing. They always want to ignore this. I'm glad DeSena brought that up. It's already against the law to murder. It's already against the law to make terroristic threats. Like, these are already laws.
Okay, we are going to move on.
And those should be laws, by the way. It should be against the law to murder. It should be against the law to make a terroristic threat. Like, duh.
On to the next person who is scheduled.
The problem is these get cash bail. It's a revolving door. They're back on the street the next day. It's just, there's lots of problems here. But the law-abiding gun owners ain't the problem.
To speak. Oh, wait. Did mine? No, that's mine. Sorry. Brendan Boudreau from Great Lakes Gun Rights.
Brendan's a good friend of mine. We talk a lot. I am a member of Great Lakes Gun Rights, and I strongly recommend joining if you're looking for a Michigan state group. I think they do a really good job fighting for the Second Amendment. So there's my endorsement. Not a paid advertising spot. He's a friend of mine. I'm a member. I think they do a good job.
Wishing to speak and supports the bill.
Thank you.
That's right,
Madam
Dale.
Chair, members of the committee, for the opportunity to testify in favor of these bills to repeal this outrageous abomination of a law that passed with biased and unequal, nonsensical committee hearings just 2 years ago. With me, you'll see a stack of boxes there. Those are the petitions of over 10,000 Michiganders who support the repeal of this law. This bill package is co-sponsored by 24 state representatives along with Representative DeSena. This goes to show you how much outrage this law has caused in the state of Michigan. Contrary to the claim of its proponents, this law has not made us safer, but what it has done is allowed for countless legally owned firearms to be confiscated from otherwise law-abiding citizens without due process. The Detroit News reported earlier this year that the gun confiscation law is being used to red flag minor children, leading to the firearms of their parents being confiscated.
We covered that on this channel as well.
The parents are not even subjected to subject to the order, yet their guns are being confiscated.
Think about what he just said. They're confiscating guns from people now that aren't even the subject of the order. So someone getting red flagged in and of themselves unconstitutional for the myriad of reasons we've discussed. They're also taking guns from people that weren't even red flagged. Just let that sink in for a minute. That's how serious this is.
You're claiming that there's due process, but those parents are being completely denied their due process.
Because keep in mind, if you red flag, if a family member gets red flagged, and this isn't due process, but they do get to later on appeal it. If they remove guns from somebody other than the person who was flagged, that person never gets to go have an appeal or a hearing at all. You're going to hear more about this. I just want to set the stage so you can all really think about how bad this, it's way worse than most people even know, is the point I'm getting
at. What's worse is that this is not even an abuse of the law. This isn't even a mistake in drafting, now that we'd be able to point it out anyways back in 2023, but rather it was pushed by the proponents as a feature of their law. What other constitutionally protected right do we allow for government agents to seize private property from a person who has not even been accused of a crime? This is outrageous. Bridge, Michigan also reported earlier this year that of the 287 gun confiscation orders issued, only 11% of them led to the individual being charged with a crime.
So 89% false flagging rate.
So while proponents will champion this is some kind of success story, please keep in mind that means that they got it wrong at least 89% of the time. Red flag laws are a failure. They're an abomination to the rights we have as citizens of this constitutional republic, and the Michigan legislature would do well to repeal it completely. I urge the committee to vote yes on these bills and send it to the House floor for immediate consideration.
Christmas Lamy says hi, guys. Say hi to Christmas Lamy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up for our next scheduled guest, Tom Lambert, who wishes to speak,
Did you notice Kelly Breen didn't want to tangle with him?
supporting the bills from
She knew
Michigan
better.
Open Carry. Tom, if you come on up, you have the floor, sir.
Members of the committee, thank you for your time. Thank you for being willing to hear what the committee was afraid to hear 2 years ago. I want to be very clear. This we're talking about today is not a question of whether we handle certain individuals. Today's question is how do we handle those individuals? As you've already heard, there are existing tools in the law that have been there for a long time and work better. If somebody calls the Social Security Administration and makes a true threat, why on earth would we leave this person in the community? Oh, hey, you signed a paper saying you gave us all their guns. I guess we can trust you now. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Everything's fine now. Why on earth would we leave that person in the community? This gives a false sense of hope because it is absolutely a horrible fit to the false. It is a horrible fit to the problem it has been put forward to supposedly solve. If you are indeed a threat, you need to be dealt with right now, not later. And if you are not a threat, why do we have this incredibly low standard that strips not just your rights, but the rights of those around you? Let's
listen to this. He's going to get into this. This is very important. Not a lot of people are talking about this.
say hypothetically that my wife says something on social media and the officers in our area petition for an order against her, and they come and take my firearms. Where's my opportunity for a hearing? Forget before they come and take my firearms. I'm not the subject of an order. Nothing in the law whatsoever says that I have a right to a hearing. My wife might at some point. I never do.
You guys listening to this? This is a Second Amendment attorney. He's the head of Michigan Open Carry, Tom Lambert.
Before or afterwards. That was there in the beginning. It has worked that way throughout this entire time. And don't get me wrong. Do not dismiss these examples that you are going to hear about today as one-offs or whoops, something happened wrong. This law is working exactly as it was intended to work. And to be very clear, those are not my words. Bridge, Michigan, February of this year. It looks to me like it's working exactly the way we intended. State Representative Kelly Breen.
Bingo. Thanks, Fun to Learn. Nice to see you, man.
Senator McMorrow sponsored the legislation February of this year. Clear evidence that the law is working exactly as intended. And this is after these examples already came to light. Examples of 6-year-olds being subject to these orders, and then they go take everything from the parents. This isn't just a Second Amendment issue. I'm not here today just on behalf of gun owners. I'm here today on behalf of every citizen in the state because you don't have to own a gun to have one of these orders against you. The legislation specifically says so.
This is insane.
Everyone, every breathing person in this state is subject to having their rights violated by this order. Everyone, not just their Second Amendment rights, their First Amendment rights. Post something on social media that isn't a true threat can be used against you. Your Fourth Amendment rights, the standard in here, the standard that was written by the former committee chair in this very committee, the what I call the might maybe standard. Let's do that weird thing and actually go to the actual language of the law. MCL 691.1807, sub 1. The court determines by the preponderance of the evidence that the respondent can reasonably be expected. I'm an attorney. I handle evidentiary standards. Evidentiary standards are meant to show that something is true or not. Is it true by preponderance of the evidence? Is it true beyond a reasonable doubt? You will do something by the standard. You did something by the standard. That's not what's going on here. It's preponderance of the evidence, okay, but that the respondent can reasonably be expected. So this is like reasonable suspicion, which is already the lowest evidentiary standard in the state, but it's not even reasonable suspicion. It's preponderance of the evidence that you might have reasonable suspicion.
Wow. Wow.
This is nonsense. Nonsense. And that's why we see so many of these issued on an ex parte basis. This is not communities protecting their loved ones as it was sold to be. That was an absolute lie. The vast majority of petitioners for these are not people petitioning for them against people they know. It is law enforcement petitioning against people in their community without personal knowledge. I want to be very clear about that. Oftentimes an officer will respond, another one in the department will fill out the petition for an ERPO.
So it doesn't have to be the officer that responds, is what he just said. Some random officer that never was in contact with the situation whatsoever can file the red flag.
How do they get this? How do they even meet the standard they have to meet without personal knowledge? And according to data released by SCAO, over 90% of these, over 90%, are petitioned and granted on an ex parte basis, if not an immediate ex parte basis.
Wow.
We talked about ex parte here, but there's another thing in the law that's kind of this super ex parte. We can skip the whole paperwork process and do paperwork and due process. If an officer just calls the court, says a number of things, and that's it, they can get this immediate ex parte order. And then when you go to court, you finally get your day in court, you now have to show by preponderance of the evidence that you are no longer a threat. Listen to that language. Listen, you are no longer a threat. It's not, hey, did we get this right in the first place? It's you're presumed to have been a threat. We're not going to talk about whether you were a threat and whether we got this right in the first place. This was, you now have to show us, you have to show us.
So you have to what he's saying here is you have to basically admit that you were a threat at one time, but now you no longer are. And you can't use as your defense that, dude, I was never a threat. I went on a date with this broad 30 years ago and I dumped her and now she's jealous because my new wife's so much hotter. I mean, keep in mind, a lot of this could be done from scoring ex-girlfriends, jealousy, family feuds. You can't go in there and mount the defense and say, dude, I was never a threat. You have to actually say, well, I'm no longer a threat, which is going to force you into admitting to something you didn't even do to even have a chance of getting your guns back. That's literally what he's talking about right now.
That you're no longer a threat. Fourth Amendment issues, because the standard to get one of these is less than probable cause. So you have to have probable cause to get into my house on a search warrant, but under these, because it's that maybe standards, that's maybe not even reasonable suspicion, you can get into my house with less than probable cause now to search my firearms. You have Fourth Amendment issues. 2015, the United States Supreme Court in Henderson held that even felons have a right to alienate their firearms, meaning they can't possess the firearms, but they can sell them. The law says that the court can order them to go to the police or an FFL. And how do people get those back? They can't alienate their property anymore. So this has now a Fifth Amendment issue in it as well, because people can't sell their property to, I don't know, pay for an attorney to go fight this stuff.
Because you do not get a court-appointed attorney when you're red flagged. Keep that in mind. You do with regular criminal stuff, but not with this. And you can't even sell your guns. Not that you want to do that, but you can't even sell them to be able to cover your attorney's fees. They just take them. And then you have to admit that you were basically you have to admit you were a threat, but you're not anymore. And then maybe you can get them back.
Clear takings. You have other issues, 14th Amendment, even potentially 8th Amendment. I haven't even gotten to the Second Amendment stuff, folks. And again, this isn't about just gun owners. This can and absolutely has been applied to non-gun owners. It can affect any person in the state. And so what I would say is, to the proponents of the existing law, will you save this, save the law from itself, or will you allow it to collapse under its own weight? As these,
I see what he's doing here. He doesn't want to keep red flag laws, guys. He's saying this is a term of art. I know exactly what he's doing here.
Examples, horrible examples that you will continue hearing about by others, because I only have so much time. Will you save the law from itself? or will you allow it to collapse under its own weight?
He's basically he's looking right at Kelly Breen and he's giving her the whole, hey, listen here, chick, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. This is a good Second Amendment attorney, by the way, and you're going to see like 2 or 3 others. Some of the best Second Amendment attorneys in all of Michigan are at this hearing. So you'll see what I mean.
Introduce legislation admitting you made a mistake and fixing some of these clear and obvious problems that we are showing today. Madam Chair, thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer your
Can't believe it
questions.
either, Michael. What country do I even live in listening to this?
Rep Breen.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really do appreciate the diligence you've put into this. And honestly, I do believe there are ways to improve the laws that are currently on the books, but not repeal them. But as you are talking about these cases and the standards to be applied, these are civil proceedings. And in order for the ex parte hearing to proceed, though, are you aware, though, that it is clear and convincing evidence that must be presented in order for
clear and convincing that you might maybe do something
for firearms to be temporarily confiscated for, again, as little as 2 weeks until a formal hearing is held?
Clear and convincing, Madam Representative, thank you for the question. Clear and convincing evidence of what per se? The standard, again, is
that somebody posed an imminent threat to themselves or others.
that is absolutely not what the law says, and that is not what you specifically put into the law as the former chair of this committee.
He knows more about the law that she passed than she does. You can't even make this up.
Again, it is not that somebody poses a threat to themselves. Let me be clear, and this is a wonderful opportunity to bring this up because I think it's where we have common ground. Be clear, not middle ground where we have to compromise to agree, common ground where we already agree. They're people that pose a serious imminent threat to themselves or others. We should absolutely deal with them. That's what I started saying. This is
I'm
not.
so happy we found a point of agreement.
I agree
love
too
it.
on that.
That's why I started saying this is not whether we handle these people, it's how. My point to you today, if you take anything home, it's that we are not dealing with those people under the law because the standard is so low. I'll read it again. Preponderance of the evidence and
Clear and convincing for the ex parte hearing.
and that's exactly the correction I was going to make. Thank you. Preponderance of the evidence for normal, clear and convincing for ex parte, that the respondent can reasonably be expected.
And so the preponderance of the evidence, though, that is when both parties are in court. And by the way, more than 80% of the time, these are being brought by law enforcement and not by a domestic partner.
Oh, by law enforcement. Welcome to the police state, ladies and gentlemen.
Or somebody else. And there is about a 20% rejection rate. So I want to make sure that at least we're on the same page when it comes to when it's clear and convincing, preponderance, ex parte, and a full hearing.
I don't think we're on the same page, Madam Representative, because you asked me about an ex parte hearing, but then you said both parties are there. If it's ex parte, by definition, both parties are not there.
Oh, mic drop. If it's an ex parte, both parties are not there. Oh, he's frying her, dude, like bacon.
Ex parte, the standard is clear and convincing.
Correct. But it's clear and convincing of what? It's not clear and convincing that this person will do something. Not clear and convincing that this person is a threat. It's clear and convincing that they might do something in the future.
Think about this. Clear and convincing evidence that you might do something in the future. Not that you've done anything. You might, maybe, at any time in the future. Clear, convincing evidence of that?
That's the problem here. You have this, again, might, maybe standard. Evidentiary standards, we can think about them as a percentage. Call beyond a reasonable doubt, at least 95% certainty that it's true. Call clear and convincing, at least 75% certainty that these are true. Call preponderance of the evidence, at least 51%. I know that's just making it easy, but that's what we're going to do here because this is quick. You apply that to something that whether it is or not true, is it 51% likely that you did this, that this is true, that you will do this thing? That's not what's going on here. It's 51% likely that you 25% might do something.
Have you attended any of these hearings where this is happening?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Have you attended any of the hearings where this is happening?
I have not attended these hearings because they're typically at least a 90% basis happening ex parte.
He's not attended the hearings because it's an ex parte hearing, meaning it happens just between the policeman and the judge, like 80% of the time. She literally asked him, have you attended these hearings? Yet again, to even understand the premise of her question requires the listener to be dumber than the speaker. You guys are smart people. You see what's going on here? She's saying, have you gone to the ex parte hearing? And he's like, no. You can't go to an ex parte hearing because you don't know about it. They're kicking in your door. They're shooting your dog. They're shooting your cat. The Haitians are eating your dog and eating your cat. I mean, Ruby Ridge, Waco, things like this go down first. Then if you live through it, you find out that there was a hearing behind your back that nobody knew about. And she literally had the nerve to ask him if he's been to these hearings. No, you can't have a lawyer go there and argue your side before they take the guns. Your lawyer, you don't find out. So, of course, your lawyer doesn't find out until they've already taken your guns. And she had the audacity to ask him if he's been to the hearings. This is evil.
Have you reviewed any of the case files?
Absolutely.
I'm happy to hear that.
You will
Then
be.
wouldn't you agree, though, that with these ex parte hearings, there is certainly clear and convincing evidence that is presented that somebody poses an imminent threat to themselves or others?
No way, no how, in so many cases. And we didn't even get to the whole bit that I mentioned before of when you present evidence, an officer presents evidence, oftentimes, many times, frequently, they're not even presenting evidence that they have personal knowledge of. When somebody typically has to do something in court, they have to certify something that they have personal knowledge of. It can't be hearsay stuff. Should be if I know you, forgive me for just working with this, and I petition for an order against you, I'm going to have to certify.
Ooh, what if he does petition an order against her? This could get spicy. My guy, Tom. I've been buddies with Tom for a few years, guys. He's pretty sharp.
That for reasons that I have personal knowledge of. When officers do these things, they oftentimes do not do so based on their own personal knowledge. An officer will respond, another officer will move for, or will petition for an order. And again, these are vast majority of the times granted on an ex parte basis. Forget the whole hearing part. That is one issue. But when they're being issued on an ex parte basis to this very low standard, which if you take one thing from this law that will make it collapse on itself, it is that low standard that came from this committee. Again, even beyond that, it's the lack of personal knowledge of the officer asserting to it. You then have other things where these officers are oftentimes leaving out absolutely critical information. My friend, Mr. Greenblatt, will be giving you an atrocious case that gives you everything you're
Dean Greenblatt's a good one, too. Another guy that I've talked to. These are like all my friends on here testifying, if you guys didn't know.
looking for to show exactly how this law is being used illegally against people where they didn't even do something. Somebody else did something. They put the guy in jail. And after putting the guy in jail, they went and got ERPOs against the grandparents that called the police for help against the guy they put in jail.
You guys are going to want to stay tuned. Don't leave. This is coming up in just a minute. This is the craziest stuff you've ever heard of. You've never seen a fiction movie like this, but this is actually real life. Like, this is dead serious.
Come on.
I'm afraid we're going to have to disagree on what the evidence is presented. And
Okay.
The standard of it,
We
but-
are going to go ahead and, Tom, we are going to call.
Look at that. Rusting female dog face. Oh, man. In my opinion, that was rusting female dog face.
Up with your because you guys were kind of all scheduled together.
Dog face pony soldier.
Dean, yeah, he's not leaving the bench or the table. Sorry, but if we can have Dean Greenblatt come up, he was on the scheduled list. Sorry, I missed that earlier.
Dean Greenblatt is a brilliant Second Amendment attorney, by the way. One of the best, like there is anywhere.
When I announced him. And also Casey Armitage, because you guys are all from the same group.
Casey
so if you want to
Armitage,
come up,
she's a
Casey
good one
as well.
too. She's another friend of mine.
Supporting the bill, that would be great.
I like these people.
And then Rep. Wozniak has a question. Real
Thank
quick.
you, Tom, for your testimony. Is there a certain level that a threat has to reach to provide probable cause for the officials to respond?
Which officials, the police or the courts or
the police? The initial threat.
Well, for the police to initially respond, no, they can just be called out and they would respond to a call. If they're going to do things from there, they must have reasonable suspicion to do certain things or even probable cause at that time to do certain things. Like if they want to get into the house, they would have to have probable cause that there's evidence to get into the house, especially without a warrant, probable cause plus exigent circumstances. So again, when the police have to normally do things, they have to have certain levels. With these orders, especially that maybe standard I keep telling you about, it's lower than the normal constitutional standards for all these other rights.
So the standard to harm oneself or harm another, does it elevate when the words say gun or shoot are used?
Interesting question.
Let me answer this question like this, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
Representative.
The lawyer.
You're out of order.
I'm used to being in court and train myself that way. Put yourself in the shoes of these judges. Do you want to be that judge that didn't order something and had something happen?
No.
Do we see why so many of these are being issued, especially with a very, very low standard, over 90% on an ex parte basis?
I guess my question's on the other end. Does the word gun or shoot or anything that's like that elevate that probable cause?
It shouldn't, but it absolutely does, typically with a standard person. Because when you say, well, I'm going to go run somebody over versus I'm going to go shoot somebody, society is trained that the latter is going to be treated much differently.
Yeah, he's right. Now, I called Wozniak's office and spoke to one of his staffers, and he told me that Representative Wozniak does want the repeal to pass committee. So make sure you're calling his office with support. And if you saw when they were showing Rep Wozniak, Representative Brian Begole, which I'm not sure if he speaks in this, that's another good one to call. He's a former county sheriff, and he's another Republican committee member as well.
That's what I thought. Because I've heard of incidents where people will call and they'll state that I'm being threatened, and the officials respond saying, well, they're only words, and they won't respond. So that's the lower level reasonable probability. Thank you.
All right, Dean, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee for the.
Listen to the story this guy's about to tell you. I'm just going to sit here and listen to this with you all. This is literally going to be one of the most insane things you've ever heard of. And I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't end up being like a big motion picture movie plot or something. Just like a horror movie, like dystopian nightmare type. Let's just listen to this, guys. And nice to see everybody in the chat tonight. And I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas.
This opportunity to support Representative Santa's bills 41, 38, 39, and 40. I sincerely appreciate the ability to discuss Michigan's Extreme Risk Protection Order Act because so many others along with me were denied that opportunity to address it 2 years ago during the hearings in 2023. I am an attorney. I do practice in the area of constitutional rights, and I have substantial experience representing clients in mental health hearings earlier in my career, hundreds and hundreds of those who petitions for involuntary hospitalization were filed. And I was a court-appointed attorney on those because in mental health hearings, the state is required, or the county, and it's a civil hearing as well, are required to provide counsel, something that is denied those who are subject to red flag orders. I do want to share the story of two clients who have been recently victimized by this misguided law. My clients are grandparents in their 80s and 90s who have a troubled 35-year-old grandson. My clients have no criminal history. They have no issues with mental health. And in fact, grandma owns no firearms. The same cannot be said for the grandson, however. He was involuntarily hospitalized 4 years ago for mental health issues and would be homeless after being released from jail after a conviction for a felony if it were not for the compassion of the grandparents. A grandfather owns several hunting rifles, but to prepare for his grandson's arrival, he placed all the firearms and all ammunition in gun safes, and those safes were stored behind a locked door in the home. grandson simply had no access. Thereafter, the grandson moves into the home in March of this year.
Listen very carefully. Just listen.
Because of the mental health issues and other issues, the relationship between the grandson and the grandparents was troublesome, and the grandparents eventually sought the grandson's eviction, a PPO, and finally filed a petition for involuntary hospitalization with the Wayne County Probate Court. That court issued an order to transport and examine the grandson on October of 23rd of this year, just a couple months ago. The local PD stopped by the grandparents' home, but didn't seize the grandson. He refused to go. They let it go at that, and they left him in the home. After that period of time, the grandparents were locking themselves in their own bedroom at night because they feared for their lives. The grandson cut off his tether that was ordered by the county, and the sheriff received notice that the tether was cut and attempted to reach the grandparents, but they didn't answer the call, so a welfare check was ordered. On October 29th, the local PD arrived at the grandparents' home. Grandma let them in, they were okay, and led them to the basement where the grandson was. But he had barricaded himself in the basement, and when the officers attempted to reach him, he fired a shot in their direction. The grandparents were removed from the home, and the SWAT team began an 11-hour standoff with the grandson. Eventually, he surrendered. All of the safes were emptied by the police of Grandpa's firearms. But that wasn't enough. The local PD filed for an ex parte ERPO against Grandpa and Grandma, claiming that they were a threat if they were able to purchase a firearm, even though the grandson was charged with 4 felonies and has and still has a $755,000 bond requirement. No one's posting his bond. He's not getting out. And he still has the petition for involuntary hospitalization that will need to be addressed. But somehow, the grandparents that have been determined by the court to be a threat in an ex parte hearing, even though they never threatened anyone. They have no criminal history. They have no mental health issues. Now the grandparents are forced to spend thousands of dollars. They're not provided an attorney under the law in an effort to seek to have their fundamental rights restored. This case illustrates something that is quite commonplace, and you'll hear more stories, and I have limited time. But this is fairly commonplace. This is what's going on with this current ERPO law, and I ask the committee to fix it. Do everything you can to fix it. Be happy to answer any questions, certainly about mental health hearings.
Thank you. Casey, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee for this opportunity.
Did you guys hear that? We're going to get on to Casey's testimony in 1 second, but not only have I never, ever heard of anything like that story I just heard, but I never thought I'd be living in a country, or in this case, in the state of Michigan, hearing anything like that. They're in their 80s and 90s. The family members become violent, being held on a $750,000 bond. They're going to get their due process, this criminal, this evil, violent person, but they took away Grandpa's guns, and Grandpa and Grandma can't even get a gun to protect themselves from a truly violent person. Wow. What's happening, Lori? That was Dean Greenblatt. Dean Greenblatt, he's a very prominent, very good Second Amendment attorney in the state of Michigan. And you're welcome, Super Nat. What's happening, Marco Polo? All right, now let's listen to Casey Armitage, who is another person who I really like. She's another good one, and she's from Michigan Open Carry.
opportunity to testify in support of repealing Michigan's red flag laws through House Bills 4138, 39, and 40. I am Casey Armitage, president of Michigan Open Carry, a mother of 3 young adult children and the wife of a combat veteran. So far, I've dedicated 10 years to advocating for our Second Amendment rights. Today, I'd like to highlight the flaws in our Extreme Risk Protection Orders, or ERPOs, by drawing a parallel to something that we all rely on, driving. Both firearms and vehicles are tools that, if misused, can cause harm to ourselves or others. But driving is a privilege regulated by the state, while owning firearms is a constitutionally protected right under the Second Amendment. If anything, we should expect more safeguards for gun owners, not fewer. Yet Michigan's ERPO laws offer less due process than our system for addressing unsafe drivers. Consider how Michigan handles concerns about dangerous driving. Anyone can submit Form OC-88, a request for driver evaluation, to the Secretary of State to report a potentially unsafe driver due to medical conditions, accidents, or observed impairments. This form initiates a review process where the driver is notified and scheduled for a re-examination.
So basically, you get more hearings, you get more of a scheduled process that you're aware of when maybe your driver's license is at stake than you do taking away your God-given, constitutionally protected right to keep and bear arms. Yeah, just think about that for a minute.
Which could potentially include vision tests, written exams, or road skill evaluations, before any action is taken against their license. Importantly, the state also doesn't seize the vehicle itself.
Storage unit.
It only addresses the licensed privilege to
Oh, I love
operate
you
on
guys.
public
This is
roads. And only after giving the driver a fair chance to demonstrate their fitness. Now, imagine if we flip that script for drivers, mirroring our ERPO laws. Suppose we created extreme risk driving orders, where an accuser, say an ex-spouse or a disgruntled neighbor, could petition a court to immediately tow all vehicles from your household and suspend everyone's driving privileges based solely on their claim that one person, even another driver in the home or a minor who isn't licensed, might be a risk someday. No accident, no ticket, no prior notice, just an ex parte order granted in secret. Police arrive at your home, impounding every car, truck, or van for up to a year, leaving your entire family stranded, unable to provide your own transportation, having to rely on the untimely transportation services provided in your area. Only after the damage is done do you get a hearing, where the burden's on you to prove no one is dangerous. We'd call that an outrage, a blatant violation of due process, opening the door to malicious misuse by anyone with a vendetta. Criminals would just steal cars or drive unregistered ones anyway, while law-abiding families suffer. Yet that's exactly what ERPOs do for firearms. Secret seizures without due process, flipping innocent until proven guilty on its head, and potentially affecting entire households by removing all guns from the home, regardless of who owns them, just like the
I think I just saw my representative, Jamie Thompson, in the crowd there. I think I spy Angela Regas, representative, in the crowd there. There's quite a few people there, guys, but as you see, it's not a packed house. Okay? Not a packed house. More people could have shown up, but there were a lot of people there too, so trying to be optimistic here.
hypothetical driving order seizes every vehicle and impacts all family members' mobility. ERPOs can strip away a household's means of self-defense based on an accusation against one person, leaving everyone vulnerable, preventing mom and dad from providing their own protection and forcing them to rely on the safety services provided in their area, with police response times averaging 10 minutes or more when seconds count. This overreach not only erodes individual rights, but punishes innocent family members, transforming a law intended for safety into one that creates division and hardship, all without the upfront safeguards we demand, even for a mere privilege like driving. If we afford more protections to a privilege like driving, including mandatory re-examinations before action, why are we stripping away due process for our constitutional right to bear arms? These red flag laws don't enhance safety. They undermine trust, invite misuse, and fail to tackle root causes like mental health. As a mom protecting her family and a veteran's wife honoring my husband's service to protect our God-given rights, I urge you, pass these bills to repeal these flawed laws and uphold our constitutional protections. Thank you.
I hear you, Lori. And there's so many people that are broke in this state right now. This state has so many problems. Michigan does in so many different ways. And look, I get it. I'm broke too. I'm broker than a well digger's ass right now and really can't even afford to pay attention most of the time. So I hear you. And the struggle is real out there. And I know a lot of you guys are kind of nodding your head and sighing that, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And look, YouTube's given this channel a strike recently. Not exactly on the good side of YouTube, and I can barely afford to keep this channel going. So I get it, man. I do. That's why I said I'm being optimistic. I would have liked it if 1,000 more people would have been there, but I understand. I'll tell you guys why I wasn't there, for example, but I did put in my written testimony. This is my shop I'm in right now. I rent spaces from a multi-tenant building. Okay, I have a landscaping shop. That's where you guys are watching me right now. And an appliance went out that happens to be in an area that's rented by me. The rest of the building needed it. I had to sit there all day and wait for a technician to come. There was no one else. Yeah. Sometimes stuff happens, but here's the most important thing for all of you real quick, and then we're going to continue playing this. It's very important to testify. Being there in person helps. Emailing your testimony is awesome too, but actually the main action happens before and after the hearing. You have this whole Christmas and New Year's break for all of you to be emailing all the members of the Judiciary Committee. I'll make a pinned comment on the replay, refreshing all your memory of all that contact info. All of you can contact these people totally free of charge to your heart's content over the next 2 weeks. So there you guys go. There's my encouragement to you. It's not going to cost you any money. Look, I've been putting in tons of legwork behind the scenes on all this. I'm talking to the staff. I'm talking to many of the reps. You can actually still help push this along without going to Lansing, without spending a dime. So that's going to make you feel better, Lori, and anyone else that's out there that can't afford a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. So I want to keep you all in the game, and we need to have positive thoughts, and we need to all move this forward. So we're going to keep continuing the hearing, but I do want to thank two people who did help sponsor this show and everything we do. G23 Reviews just became a YouTube channel member. He's a longtime supporter of the channel, and shout out to the G23 Reviews channel, and thank you for your support, man. And I just saw just now, Ripley Williams became a channel member. So thank you for becoming a YouTube channel member. You guys get access to unique emojis. If you go back to the members portion of my channel, you'll see I need to do more. I haven't done one lately, in all fairness, but I do have some extra members only videos that you guys might like. So thank you. And thank you to all of you for the many ways you've been continuing to support. And Dale just chimed in. What's happening, N8 IWS? Channel member for 55 months. Never give up. Yes, we have to keep fighting because the other side isn't going to stop either. And I'm here just to hang out with you guys. We're all having a good time talking about the Second Amendment. And I'm trying to help you guys with the info that you need, and I'm trying to give you the encouragement that all of you need. That's why I'm here right now. And I'm glad to see all of you because I need your encouragement as well. And I really, really appreciate seeing all of you. And Greg's right. Had we been allowed to give testimony only 2 years ago, the votes may have been different. Maybe, maybe not, but at the same time, Kelly Breen did not hold a fair hearing. And I completely agree. And I was at that hearing 2 years ago. And I'll be back in Lansing again, guys. I just told you the reason I couldn't this time. Sometimes it rains, I guess, right? Sometimes stuff happens.
Thank you. Rep Harris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is probably geared more towards the two attorneys that are on the bench. So ERPOs, are these public record? Once they're filed, are they public record?
Both the orders and I believe the petitions are.
Even if the judge decides that they're not going to take action on it?
Is my understanding the answer is yes.
Okay. So I think there was a comment made earlier about, going another route and that if potentially affecting somebody's reputation. Do you think these could be a reputational issue? They get filed?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Good questions.
Thank you. We are going to move on to Zoom here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Thompson there on the bottom right.
We have Deputy Chief Hughley.
Yep, that's Jamie Thompson, representative. And that's Representative Angela Regas there in the blue. And the reason I'm mentioning them are these are representatives that are not on the committee. So the fact that we have representatives, sitting Michigan representatives in the committee hearing in the audience, again, that shows we're getting some buzz. And make sure if Thompson's your rep, call her up in her office and email them, whatever, and say, hey, thank you for coming to that hearing. That meant a lot to us. You didn't have to be there. Representative Angela Regas, same thing with her. They didn't have to be there. But they want to be there. They want to be standing for the 2A. So that's encouraging, right, to see that. Usually there's like 5 people in these hearings in the audience, just so you guys know. So this one's kind of a big deal.
Are you on Zoom still?
Uh-oh. Okay, now we're going to hear from the police. So far, everyone that's testified is against red flag laws and they support DeSantis' red flag repeal. Well, I hate to break it to you. Don't shoot the messenger, but it's not going to really be our people here for a few minutes. You're going to now start hearing people who support red flag laws.
Okay. Yep. We got you. So I have a card here that you wish to speak in opposition of the bills.
And this is like Officer
sir, you have the
Uncle
floor.
Tom or whatever you want to call him.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Madam Chair and Honorable Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Southfield Police Department. I've been listening to everyone speak, and I agree it's a larger issue. We definitely, the state of Michigan and the country, for that matter, is in a mental health crisis.
Real quick here, we're going to listen to this guy, but I want to address this one comment. Forge La Femme, is Riley Linton there? This is one of the things she campaigned on. I know she campaigned on it. I think we can rely on her to be a strong Second Amendment vote. I didn't see her there in the audience. Now, I've known Riley for a number of years. If you guys have been following this channel a while and you pay attention to, they used to be called the Community Post section of the channel. Now they're just called Post. You will see a picture of me and Riley that we took 2-3 years ago now together. So I've known her for a number of years. I've known her since she was with the Young Republicans, and now she's a state rep. She's still a very young lady. This isn't criticism for Riley, but it's constructive encouragement. I would like to see Riley more out vocally with the 2A. I'd like to see her in the media a little more. I'd like to see her with some more. Yeah, so that's the thing. And I'm going to encourage her because I do know her. I think she's a nice lady. And last time I was in her office, I should say the first time I was in her office, because she just got elected this term, I walked in there to say hi to her and to congratulate her. And right away, she was wanting to show off her pink GOA hat. And, I think she's a very, very strong Second Amendment advocate. I'd like to see her like with Thompson and DeSana, because they're all like neighboring districts with each other. I'd like to see the 3 of them get out there a little more up front together. We've seen Thompson very up front. Jamie's been on this channel many times. We've seen DeSana. I'd like to see Riley with a little bit more messaging on the 2A, because I know she's got it in her. But I do think she's a strong Second Amendment supporter. So if Riley's your rep, say, we'd like to see you out there with DeSana and Thompson, maybe a little bit more, being outspoken on the 2A, however you want to word it. And that's the way you can encourage somebody if you think that their voice would help our cause. Okay. But I do know Riley. I've known her for several years now. I do think that she's a nice lady, and I think she's a good, strong Second Amendment supporter. And she is a huge improvement over Jamie Churches. And that was a huge upset victory that she had for the Wyandotte, Michigan area. So I'm very happy she's in there, and I think she's on our side. So there you go.
And so the ERPO law, the passing of the ERPO law has been an effective tool for law enforcement agencies such as Southfield Police Department to effectively remove firearms in those situations. So where we believe, based on circumstance, call history, witnesses, admissions, to remove those firearms from that home for the protection of that person that has ownership of those firearms, other residents of that home, and also responding law enforcement. Over since the passage of the law, the Southfield Police Department has had 10 incidents, 4 in 2024 and 6 in 2025, related to the filing of ERPOs, related to the removal of firearms. So again, in our opinion, it's an effective measure or mechanism to remove these firearms when we feel it's a situation that's creating danger for the individuals associated with that home. One incident or circumstance that I would like to present here in 2025, we had an individual. We had the spouse of an individual call law enforcement because he was threatening to commit suicide with a loaded firearm. And ultimately enough, he had suffered some personal related issues in the last couple of weeks related to losing his job, and also some familiar related issues as well. So the culmination of those things had taken him to that point. There were several kids at that home at the time. The incident took place outside in the backyard of the property where the kids were present, some other adults, including the spouse that called us. Once we responded, we found the individual in a wooded type area with the firearm and the magazine being displaced from one another. The displacement of the magazine came from the spouse ultimately tackling the person and them having a bit of a physical engagement to get that firearm away from him. He then left and went into the home and to obtain another firearm, continuing to suggest that he was going to end his life. And so we were able to respond, separate, and we went through that process of committing the person for.
Does anyone believe this guy? We're going to keep listening to him. Does anyone actually believe a word this guy's saying? Bad cop, no donut.
Psychological evaluation, mental health evaluation. He made admissions to us, and so that was a circumstance where we utilized the implementation of the law to be able to not only safely but legally remove those firearms from the home, again to protect that person moving forward and also protect the occupants of the home. So again, from the stance of the Southfield Police Department, and again, I'm not going to represent law enforcement as a whole. I can just tell you our experience with it since the passage. It's been an effective tool, and we're in support of the maintenance of the law.
Oh, give me a break. Look, you guys are smart. Just read the chat. That's what I thought you'd say. Does anyone believe this guy? Yeah, right. Let me read this quick generous super chat, and then we're going to keep listening, because this is just like, oh, come on now. Like, come on, these stories, I'm just sitting there thinking, yeah, right. Kevin James coming in with a generous $10 super chat. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. He says, thanks for all you do, 2A Edu. Been watching for years. Merry Christmas, brother. Keep fighting for us. Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate the support, and I enjoyed seeing you in the chat tonight, and I enjoy seeing all of you guys. So, yes, Merry Christmas, and God bless you, man. Let's listen to this guy here. Officer Political Speak.
Rep Harris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, sir, for being here. We appreciate your service. I've had some dear friends that have worked for you and in an amazing department. And, there's 3 of us that sit on this committee that are retired law enforcement. And so, we know that you've been put in a lot of positions where maybe you see this as a very valuable tool. And I think we probably seen numerous cases where we want to make sure that we can effectively protect the public. So again, I applaud you for that. My question is, so I've heard from a deputy chief in another Southeast Michigan department where the courts have mandated that their officers that are filing ERPOs have to include their home address. Have you had any of that experience in your area?
You have access to that.
Oh, he doesn't want to answer the question, does he?
So I, not personally for myself, and I haven't heard that contention mentioned. That's something that we can look into. Again, those forms are obviously generated outside of the police department. So
somebody does need to FOIA these forms. Can you see how he's shifting over, looking at somebody? This guy's got a handler. Check this out. He's got a handler right off camera here.
that may be a requirement, but I can't confirm or deny it in front a hearing now.
See, he just looked for approval. See this? You can't even make this crap up.
Okay. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
I may be able to get that answer for you shortly, though.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, right. Somebody does need to FOIA all this.
Okay, great. Thanks. Well, next up, we're going to have Kelly Dillaha from End Gun Violence, Michigan.
Oh, boy.
You have a couple minutes if you would just approach. Yep.
Oh, boy. This is going to be good.
Opposition of the bills, wishing to speak.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Kelly Dillaha. I am the State Program Director of Red, Wine, and Blue, which is an organization with nearly 43,000 members in Michigan. And I also am a board member of End Gun Violence Michigan, a coalition representing almost 60 organizations in our state, including gun owners.
Give me a break.
We advocated for the
Give me a
passage of
break.
extreme risk protection orders, or ERPOs, 2 years ago. And we're here again today because this law is working and lives depend on it. This law has been used nearly 300 times to remove.
She can't even afford to put a comb through her hair. You can't, like I said, I say this stuff. I say, look, these are not good looking people, and not on the inside either. And then, you know, anyone that thought that I was making it up, I mean, well, anyone that thought I was making it up.
Remove guns from dangerous situations in the first year, and there have been 0 people charged in that time with abusing the process. But for me, the reason I'm here is that the fight against gun violence and domestic violence is personal.
I think she's here because she wants to take all your guns. That's my opinion. And look, it's my opinion she can't afford to put a comb through her hair. She probably has more money than I do. I mean, all these people do somehow.
When I was 9 years old, my father threatened my mother with a gun in front of me. He was drunk, he broke into the home, furniture was overturned, and my mother's face was bloodied. Frozen with fear, as a 9-year-old, I'm the one who had to call 911. And the police arrived and saved my mom and my life. And my father didn't pull the trigger that day, so I guess I was lucky. But I often wonder if there had been something like an ERPO that existed then, could my family have...
By the way, guys, I'm not laughing at her tragic story. I'm laughing at some of the chat. You guys are making me look bad. I'm not going to laugh at some little girl because the dad pulled a gun. Look, I don't know if her story's true or not. I just want to clarify, though. I'm laughing at the chat because you guys are making jokes about speaker taint and all of these types of things. All right, let's listen to her sob story, why she wants to take all of our guns.
Have been spared that life-altering night. Today, families in Michigan do have access to ERPOs and the chance to get help before a crisis turns into a tragedy. Law enforcement is using the tool responsibly and effectively, as we just heard, and we are all safer because of it. Let me share.
You guys see what Jay just said? I'm pinning some of these comments, man. It's been a good chat, guys.
A few examples from around the state this year. In Battle Creek, a woman's husband became abusive and unstable and threatened to murder-suicide and tried to drag her into a basement where he stored firearms. An ERPO was able to help that. tragedy from progressing further than that. In Fowlerville, an intoxicated man paced his yard with a handgun, threatening violence. He was hospitalized, but his behavior escalated further and he threatened police, hospital staff, and neighbors. The Livingston County Sheriff, who once opposed this law, filed an ERPO to protect his community.
Oh, that is true. And I went and talked to Sheriff Mike Murphy about that as well. I am not in favor of it whatsoever. That is true what she just said. Look, guys, I'm going to rip on these people, but she is right. Sheriff Mike Murphy of Livingston County has used red flag laws. Now, here's the thing. If you guys think this is a scorn woman, give this stream a thumbs up and give me a Y in the chat or a yes. Who thinks this is a scorn woman here that we're dealing with? That, you know, life sucks, so let's just take everybody else's guns or whatever it is she's trying to say.
In Detroit, ERPOs were used to temporarily remove firearms from the homes of 4 police officers due to domestic violence concerns. And in Flint Township, a man barricaded himself in his basement, fired a gun, and threatened to kill himself. Police removed 12 rifles from the scene. In every one of these cases, help came before tragedy. ERPOs protected Michigan families.
Wait, she means where they took the guns from the victims that had the elderly people that had to barricade themselves? Go back and watch the spot with Dean Greenblatt. It's going to be a story you've never even thought possible if anyone's just joining. Crazy.
And that would mean families like mine. ERPOs are working. As I mentioned earlier, I'm constantly interacting with the public through my work, both online and in person. And just want to point out that after a week of horrific gun violence here in Michigan, across our country, and indeed across the globe, House Bills 4138, 4139, and 4140 feel deeply out of step with what people are actually saying in the state. They want safety, they want prevention, and they want lives saved, not regrets after the fact. And that's why I urge you to oppose these bills. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. And unfortunately, we have one more time for one more. Unfortunately, we have time for one more. It's not unfortunate, the person. So
now this is tough because they needed to have 3 hours of testimony. There was a whole list of people that are getting to speak. My friend Rob Rodriguez from 2A Patriot, he was there and was supposed to speak. He couldn't. My friend Marcy Jankovic from Women for Gun Rights was there. She didn't get a chance to speak. And a whole nother list of people as well. So there was a lot more people there that wanted to support DeSantis' red flag repeal. You're hearing her say that they're running out of time. So let's go on. Just a few more minutes of this. But there's still a lot more to cover here.
please don't mince my words. Wishing to speak in support of bill, Steve Doolin from Michigan Coalition for Responsible Gun Owners. Steve, you literally only have a couple of minutes as we have another committee hearing here at
No
noon.
problem.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. Thank you, Representative Sana, for inviting me here. I am an attorney and an adjunct professor of law. I teach a class called Gun Control Seminar for the last 20 years. So we've been debating red flag laws for a long, long time before this ever came up as a bill in Michigan. I'm on the record in public debates as opposing red flag laws for a variety of reasons that you've already heard. But I want to tell you about a specific case I had, which was an ERPO case last year. I had me looking around for Franz Kafka. Here's the situation. 19-year-old Marine reservist attending a...
Listen to this story, and they're going to cut him off, but this is another story you really want to listen to. This is also literally insane.
Program at Michigan State University to try to recruit service members and veterans into college. It's a residential program, so he's living in the dorms. He comes from a state that has constitutional carry, and being a Marine and being very aware of his rights to bear arms, he brought a couple of guns with him. So he's got them in his car as he's going through the program. Second or third day of the program, he has kind of a bad day because he finds out it's going to be a lot more difficult for him personally to get into college than he thought. So you might be aware, suicide is a huge issue with the military. So from the time he joined and went through training, he was trained on suicide prevention. So he was told over and over again during his training that if you feel depressed, talk to someone, right? So he did. All the members of the administration of this program, except for the director, were also veterans. So he went to his RA and said, hey, man, I'm having a bad day, basically. And part of the procedure that he was taught as a Marine is if you start thinking you might do something stupid, get somebody to help you prevent that. Now, in his case, doing something stupid was getting in his car and going to try to find alcohol. So he gives his car keys to his RA. And he says, hey, take my car keys for tonight, will you? Okay, cool. Then he also followed his military training, and he was now handing off a couple of weapons, right? Because he's got 2 guns in the car, because he comes from Georgia where there's no licensing whatsoever. And he's perfectly lawful back home with those guns. So he alerts the person he handed the keys to, there's a couple of guns in the car. So thanks, man, no problem. So he goes about his business. This is about 9:00 p.m. Apparently what was happening is the leadership of this program were having conversations, including with the director, who finally took it upon herself at 1:50 a.m. to call Michigan State University Police Department and report that they had somebody with a mental health issue. My client didn't think it was a mental health issue at all. And ultimately, by the way, no one did. So about 3:00 a.m., the police wake him from a sound sleep, subject him to an extended non-Mirandized custodial interrogation. But it turns out I don't get to raise that issue because this is civil, right? Even though the police and the prosecutors are involved exactly like a criminal case, and that's part of the Kafkaesque nature of this. So they take him down to the hospital and give him a mental health evaluation. He gets his mental health evaluation, and he's released from the hospital by about 8 a.m. Cleared. Not a danger to himself or others. You're good, man, right?
Guys, if you listen to what he's actually saying here, this guy's on our side here. He's talking about the travesty that happened to this Marine, that they took his guns. So, and yeah, his hair's not that good.
So in the meantime, what happened is the MSU Police Department called the hospital, asked for permission to check on what was going on, asked for a HIPAA waiver, essentially. My client gives a HIPAA waiver. Sure, tell him I'm good, right? So the MSU Police Department's now been alerted that my client has cleared his mental health evaluation. So he goes almost directly to the MSU Police Department, asks for his guns back because he's really disgusted with the whole thing. Now he just wants to go home to Georgia. Well, the desk person says, I don't know, we don't want to give you your guns back, so you got to wait. So they didn't give him his guns back. So about 2 p.m. that afternoon, a member of the MSU Police Department who'd never met my client, never been on the scene, swears out an ERPO affidavit, which is immediately granted. So when we talk about it, most of these are granted. Yeah, the process is loose, right? And so we're based on hearsay, actually, that application for an ERPO, because the sergeant who signed it had no personal knowledge whatsoever. And she's reading police reports that it turns out we got a hold of later were wildly exaggerated. At no time, and we got body cam video and audio, at no time during that interrogation did my client ever indicate that he was thinking of hurting himself or anyone else. What he did say under a lot of questioning at 3 a.m. by 2 armed police officers crowding up against him in the hallway is they said, have you ever thought about suicide? And he was dead honest. He said, well, yeah, hasn't everybody? Kind of something like that. So that was enough. And of course, he thinks about suicide. He's been through all this military training on suicide, right? He's not going to lie. So that was enough for this red flag order to be issued, this ex parte order to be issued. So now he's got to come back to Michigan. He's got to hire an attorney because it's civil. He doesn't have a right to counsel, right? So his family gets together some money to hire me. I'm not a cheap service. And I start looking into it. I get a hold of the prosecutor and show the prosecutor that the MSU Police Department knew that he had been cleared by mental health before they ever signed the order. She says, well, that's some BS. I'll agree to dismiss it, right? So now we go to court. I'm standing next to the prosecutor, and we do we'll try to do on the record a stipulation to dismiss. But the judge, who's a well-meaning judge with a great reputation, says, well, these are kind of confusing. We're going to have to figure this process out together because she's got a bench book about an inch thick from Supreme Court Administrative Office. It's only the third one in the county, by the way, at that point. So she says, I don't think I can dismiss it. This isn't criminal. This is civil. I think I have to have your client come back for another hearing.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you literally have like 1 minute. If
All
you
right,
can
I'll
wrap up,
it.
we have to, adjourn.
Ultimately, we got my client's guns back, but he had to come back for 2 hearings from out of state and pay me and pay for all that travel in order to get his guns back for something that never should have happened, right? And now he's subjected to an investigation by his chain of command in the Marines because he has a potential mental health problem. Happy ending. Now, a year and a half later, he's doing well. He's been brought on full-time in the Marines, and he's a full-time active duty Marine now. But he went through hell, essentially, because of this law and how loose the procedures are. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you to everybody that came today and participated. Like I said, we have numerous cards and emails that will go on the record. The clerk will record them on the record. I'm sorry we couldn't get to you today. Seeing no further business before the committee, we will adjourn.
All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed hearing that. And when I say enjoyed, no, it was not an enjoyable topic. Of course, we want red flag laws to be repealed in Michigan. But, we need to hear this stuff. And some of these people did have real life stories, just like the last attorney there. I kind of saw the comments. It seems like some of you guys were kind of against him. It took a little while for his story to develop, but that was kind of the point of his testimony. It was a long, drawn-out process that this Marine had to go through when he ended up being cleared by the mental health professionals and everything else, that now he's actually no threat to himself or others. He's thought about the topic before because, again, they've had tons of training about it. And yeah. So a couple quick questions you guys had, which were maybe kind of sarcastic questions, but thought-provoking questions too, though. So Kevin James says, so if it's civil, is it more easy to sue them? Of course not. Absolutely not. They're going to always have qualified immunity when it comes to this stuff. Good luck ever suing any of these people from the government, the police generally. Not going to happen. I mean, maybe once in a million, but as far as this type of topic goes, it ain't going to happen. These are rules for all of us, but not for them. And this just yet again illustrates that we live in a two-class society. Something the founding fathers literally fought the Revolutionary War over. We're not supposed to have lords and ladies. We are not required to address any person by their title. Not according to how the country was founded anyways. But yet here we are. No, you really can't do anything to them at all. It's civil, which means you don't get the right to a court-appointed attorney if you can't afford one. They somehow legally justify completely bypassing due process of law. Okay, you get things taken from you, even though the Constitution says you can't be deprived property without due process of law. They do it anyways. And this is all under the guise that it's a civil proceeding. However, hold on a minute. If you get this civil order put against you, you not only lose your property, but you're a prohibited person during that time period too. If you try to buy, trade, borrow, or otherwise acquire any guns or ammunition, or even gun parts or components thereof, there's no loophole, it's very thorough, then you violate. If you're deemed to still be a threat, say the person that flagged you, let's assume it was false in this case, reports you again. If you violate this red flag, okay, while you're on it, while you're subjected to the ERPO, then the criminal charges start racking up. So you violate it once, it's a misdemeanor, then it quickly becomes a felony. So it starts off civil, so they can do this weird workaround. I'm using air quotes. I know I'm real small on the bottom there. Here, let me just get rid of this screen because we're not sharing it anymore. I'm going to kind of just wrap up with you guys a few minutes here. You don't get any of the protections the Constitution affords because it's civil. But once you have it filed against you, if you mess up at all, you quickly become guilty of a misdemeanor, then a heavier misdemeanor, then felonies, and you can end up going to prison for a long time. That's how this works. And we were hearing different statistics floated around. It's about 89, 90% of the time, it ends up that you're not a threat to yourself or others. And yet they still say this is reasonable. They're going to tug at the heartstrings. And you heard that lady, that woman, whatever she is, with the gun control group saying, this is what all the people want in Michigan. Well, I know better than that because I know a lot of good people that live in Michigan. Look, Michigan's a hellhole. Michigan's a crap state. But there's still a lot of good people that live here, work here. And I know better. But that's the narrative that they're peddling. I also see one here from the ICE. The ICE gamer says, can we file an ERPO against the cops that use excessive violent force? Seems like they are a danger to themselves or others. And that is a thought-provoking question. And of course, the answer to that is no, you cannot. Because again, it's my opinion now, and I think it's almost pretty much right in our face that we live in a two-class society. There's them, and there's us. There's the haves, the have-nots. And it sucks. But that's what it is. I don't concede to it, but that is what it is right now. Now, there could be a narrow instance where you could, I suppose, if you cohabited or had ever cohabited with said police officer, maybe you dated them once. You know, maybe you're a relative of them. So you could potentially have standing. But I think that would have to be in their personal capacity because it goes back to that old qualified immunity. I know a lot of you guys follow this type of stuff, and if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. It's called qualified immunity. And it seems like they almost always have it. And pretty much virtually always have it. So I don't know, man. We're ruled over by rulers. And all the different things that, well, can you do this? Can you do that? Good luck. Yeah, Matt Hoover. Thank God that he's out of prison now because talk about a victimless crime. A card, a metal etching that when they did cut it out on the lines, it did not function the way they accused him of. They never found that anyone successfully used one. Nobody was hurt. Man, I'm not a fan of victimless crimes like at all. It's crazy. Representative Ann Boland, I do know her as well. I did not see her in the room. Look, that's why I say I need all of you guys. We all need to. Like I say, I need you to, just meaning like I'm one of us. I'm one of you all. I live in Michigan. You know, my family's here. My business is here. So I need you guys, and we all need all of us to still be getting a hold of these reps during this Christmas and New Year's break. I'm not guessing at this. Trust me, I'm not guessing at this. I have tons of inside sources. I've talked to many people. I'm not going to repeat it all now. Whatever happens in the next couple weeks here during this Christmas, New Year's break, they're on recess until like the second week of January. This is going to likely be the determinative factor whether they actually hold that vote in the hearing, hopefully promptly or at all this year. Now, it's looking good for us so far, meaning, did you see the stacks that she was holding up of testimony? The stacks of the testimony cards? The clerk was handing her more that were coming in, like, as she was speaking. Like, here's all the ones I gave you 5 minutes ago is what that meant when Chair Leitner was holding them all up. And then the clerk of the committee, her name's Melissa Sweet. I've talked to her on the phone 3 times in the last 2 weeks. No, she's not a friend of mine. I don't know her. We're not on a first name basis. I was calling her to get very specific direction that I used in those videos where I was trying to give you all the info how your voices could be heard, right? So she was basically like, look, and these, you guys saw that right at the beginning of the hearing. So right now, this is creating a pretty big buzz in Lansing. This is the first step. I want you guys to be encouraged. I want you to be able to look towards a victory here, hopefully someday, on some of this. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not saying this is a done deal. I'm not saying that no matter what, we're going to win at anything. I'm not saying that to you at all. You guys hear me sometimes where I'll go off for 2 hours talking about how everything sucks. Not because I try to be a doomer, not because I'm black-pilled, just because I'm going to tell you the reality. And in my opinion, and I think some people are here because they do want to hear my opinion, some of my insight, just knowing there's another person out there that knows what's going on. This is a forum where you guys can hang out with each other in the chat. So while me and none of my friends I see in the chat, none of us are naive, okay? I'm not trying to sit there like a 8th grade cheerleader at a football game going, rah, rah, sis, boom, bow with my little pom-poms. No. But at the same time, I don't want us all to be just so black-pilled and so pissed off that we just crawl in our hole and just do nothing. Because as the old saying goes, just when you think things couldn't get worse, things can always get worse. And they can, and they will. And these people are evil, and evil always prevails when good men do nothing. So I hope you all got some education out of that, hearing that committee hearing. There were some really, really bright, smart, and good people that did testify. Look, I'm not a fan of lawyers, but there's a couple really good Second Amendment lawyers, and you did hear them talk today. I'm not a fan of politicians, actually, at all. I don't like politics at all. I know it seems like, I'm into politics, but that's because my natural God-given right to keep and bear arms that shall not be infringed, it's become political, and it should have never become political. And there shouldn't have to be a channel called 2A EDU. And I'm just getting sick and tired of being sick and tired of the notion that you should even have to talk about the Second Amendment. I get it. And I know a lot of you feel the same way. I read the comments. I read the chat. Why do we even need to talk about this? Well, because the other side is. And the other side's never, ever, ever going to stop trying to take every last one of our guns. That's what this is all about. When you're red flagged, they take all of your guns. If you live with somebody else that was red flagged, including even your 6-year-old, they take all the guns from the whole house. If you're the victims of a violent person, like we heard with the elderly couple that Dean Greenblatt talked about earlier, they take your guns. The old man's barricaded in his room and they take his guns. Guns that he might need to protect himself with, obviously. No, they're not going to stop. They literally want to take all of our guns. They made it known. There's no guessing around. There's no more pussyfooting around. And we need to stop them. So I'm trying to offer encouragement. And I appreciate all of you who are doing the same thing. And I appreciate that you guys aren't giving up. Look. The Second Amendment shouldn't be political, but it is. I don't like politics, but I have to engage in it because that's what the Second Amendment is now. I don't like it. So let me know what you all are doing. I'm going to copy some of the information from that one video I did last week, a week and a half ago, whenever it was. I will paste it into the pinned comment here. So you guys can go on replay to give you a reference to the webpage you can go to get all the committee members, phone numbers, email addresses, contact your rep. And I know, like, first of all, I'm going to leave you with one more thing here before I wish y'all a Merry Christmas again. But, you call to complain. Some people don't call or write at all, whatever. I mean, you do have that right. That is what you're supposed to do, is petition your government for a redress of grievance. We're supposed to be throwing off a tyrannical government. That's what the Declaration of Independence says. But if you see a couple of these reps doing the right thing for the Second Amendment, there's only a couple of them. Again, I'm totally disenchanted with politics. I need the House to repeal red flag laws to get me excited about voting again, I think some of you do know what I mean, don't you? That's why I'm trying to push this forward in a positive direction. We need a little bit of positive energy right now. We really do need that. And I do have some now that I'm seeing this hearing. And a lot of the good points that were made, the fact that there's a chance they could vote this out of committee. Then we can see maybe some of your representatives that you voted for. Like I heard someone mention Riley Linton earlier. You want to see what her vote is. I think she's going to be with us, but we need to see her vote. This has to get to a House floor vote so we can separate the wheat from the chaff. We can see where these people are at. And it doesn't seem like it, but this is how the sausage is made. And this has to happen before the next thing can happen. I wish we could wave a magic wand, but nobody's waving one right now. If you saw Jamie Thompson in the crowd there, which I did, Representative Jamie Thompson, give her office a call and say, hey, I appreciate that you were there. I saw Representative Angela Regas sitting right there. Make sure you give her office a call and thank her for standing for the 2A. Because trust me, when these representatives that are on the committee look out and see what they refer to as their colleagues, meaning another representative, that means a lot. Because it's not just Angela Regas sitting there. She's there representing 90,000 people. When you see Jamie Thompson there, now Jamie's with us on the 2A, so is Angela. I know both of them very well. Jamie's one of my best friends. But look, her and her family, her husband, Ron, beautiful family. I love all of them to death. But so yes, Jamie in her personal capacity, she's going to be there for the 2A. She's one of us with the 2A. But when Representative Thompson's there just standing in the back of the crowd, milling around, Angela's sitting there, they see, trust me, I guarantee you these reps know. And they look at those two reps that were sitting there and they're like, that's 90,000 people. That's 180,000 people there. So it's just how it works. It's how these people look at things. So make sure if you do have a representative, because there's not really a whole lot of good ones left anymore, we need to get behind the ones that are doing good, and we need to hold all of them that are not honoring their oath to protect and defend the Constitution. They need to be held accountable, and we need to tell them, get out, you're fired. So that's how this works. If they're not doing the right thing, you're fired. If they are doing the right thing, hey, good job. We have your back. And it's really just that simple at the end of the day, isn't it? So good to see all of you tonight. I hope you guys did enjoy the stream. I had watched the whole thing myself already. I was watching it live from my shop when it happened. I wanted to watch it again, but mainly I just wanted to be here with all of you tonight. So good to see all of you. Thank you so much for all of your Merry Christmas wishes. I really appreciate you. And there's more of you than me. And I probably maybe almost even interrupted the hearing a bit too much for some people's taste. So I had to keep stopping myself. But if I didn't say hi to everybody there, I did at least see all of you. I know you're there. I appreciate you being here and hanging out. And I want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. Often we think to ourselves, man, there's just no good answer in politics. Everything's a struggle. Some things suck worse than others, but none of it ever, ever, ever meets our standards. And that is true. And I haven't really found anything among me on this earth. But here's the thing, guys. We all live in this world, don't we? We're in this world. But we're not supposed to be of this world. And we argue about Democrats. We argue about Republicans. And none of them are perfect. None of them are even very good at all, actually. Well, there was one truly good person that walked this earth, actually. Now, a lot of us are trying our best. And that's all we can do. We're going to try our best. And through Jesus, we'll be able to sit at the right hand of God, won't we? But there was one truly, truly good man that walked this earth. Was born a long time ago from a virgin. Joseph, you guys know this? Joseph almost divorced her. Did you know that? Mary and Joseph. Couple, and he says, whoa, she's pregnant? Has my woman been stepping out on me? He thought. An angel came down and said, no, Mary's good. This is good. A king's going to be born. We think about things like this country was formed fighting against the King of England. And there's all these kings. They come and they go, don't they? And the more things change, the more they seem to say the same. All these tyrannical leaders. Herod killed every child that was 2 years old and under when he realized that the 3 wise men, frankincense, gold, myrrh, you've all heard of that, right? They were supposed to come back and report where this baby Jesus was, where this king was, and Herod pretended. He pretended he wanted to be there to worship him. The 3 wise men figured out, no, he wants to kill him. No, thankfully, King Herod, before he could catch up to him, and Mary and Joseph had gone over to Egypt. I wish I could cite you the exact scripture. I don't have every word of the Bible memorized, but I do remember the gist of the story. And this is where I get my true encouragement. Jesus is born of a virgin, Mary. Joseph wasn't so sure at first, but he talked to angels and knew that it was going to be okay. And Christmas is celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ, the Immaculate Conception. Really the only person that's ever been truly good on this whole earth. Yeah, Satan tried to tempt Jesus out in the wilderness. And he said, turn that stone into bread. And he said, no, right? I don't just feed myself of bread. And so often nowadays, and I'll probably lose subscribers because so many people are like, cut it out to Edu. You're not supposed to talk about Jesus. Well, actually, I am supposed to, actually. Because actually, Jesus is really the only hope any of us have. At least it's the only hope I have, actually. And as Christmas is coming here in just about 24 hours, just remember that. This is us celebrating the birth of the King. Not a king, but the King. Christ is King. Not Christ was, but Christ is. And God is. And they killed Jesus' body. And in an earthly sense, he probably definitely could have stopped it, but he had to fulfill the prophecies, didn't he? 3 days later, he arose from the dead, and he is risen. Just think about that. Jesus Christ, the only Son of God, was born. That's why we celebrate Christmas. And after that, you didn't have to be part of a certain tribe. You didn't have to be part of a certain chosen people. See, when Jesus was born, when the King was born, the only legitimate king, actually, and God's the only legitimate judge, when the only actual legitimate king was born, anybody and everybody, people just like you and just like me, have the chance to be saved. And without Jesus, we literally wouldn't have a chance at all. And I hope you all do enjoy time with your family, because that's very, very important. And we do need to fight on earth to make this world a better place. And I hope you enjoy the presents that you're exchanging. But I just want to encourage you to just to think about why we actually celebrate this holiday. And why so many Christians celebrate this holiday. And I think so many Christians do get caught up in the rat race so much. And I often do too. Trust me. More than I'd even want to admit to, I often want to forget about these things. I'm so darn stressed out, but Christ is King, born of a virgin, and he's here right now. He ain't going anywhere. So that's why I really like Christmas, and I hope all of you have a very blessed Christmas. And God bless all of you, and I hope to see you all again very soon. All right, thanks for watching, and have a good one.